it was coming straight for me. And I think it was the first time that I really learned how to step into an energy that matched that. So it was like I had to learn how to now give off this presence of predator as well. Change this idea that the ocean owes us an experience, and kind of like allowing people, if they really are truly here for the water and for free diving, that rather than feeling like we must get something because we paid for it, like how we can actually shift into a place of gratitude for everything that we experience. There is so much going on in the world where it's really easy to spiral into this darkness. And that doesn't mean that there's no place for depth and darkness and life that just happens sometimes. But how do we actually, also make space for the things that lighten us up and like lift our hearts, remind us why we want to continue and be here day to day.
If you have ever wanted to understand why we should be asking for nature's help on mindsets, adventure, and more, then you're in the right place. So, welcome to the Maximise Nature Podcast. Welcome to Maximise Nature. Today's guest is Emgonewild, an ocean freediver based in Mexico. She is an ambassador for Sea Shepherd, where she promotes the aquatic life in all of its beauty. If you have ever wanted to explore the ocean through an epic storyteller, whilst debunking the myth that the sea is too scary to explore, then this is the perfect episode for you. We're going to dive in and explore with Emily how beautiful life is beyond our shores and why more people need to take the plunge and experience such a free place. Then we can take the good thoughts and put them in a travel bag, ready to use in our next adventure. So with that, here's today's episode of the Maximise Nature Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and come on today to inspire people to go into their own oceanic adventures.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. It's been a dream of mine to get a free diver on because I am obsessed with the ocean and everything. If you were out on a boat somewhere and the only way to ever enter the water again was to introduce yourself to everyone, how would you do it?
I guess the way that I would introduce myself to everyone is that, yes, I'm a free diver, but the biggest thing that I like to kind of parallel with being a free diver in the ocean is more just human in kind of its rawest form. And that's kind of why I actually like to be in the ocean, is because we're so separate from kind of a like societal or like modern form of what it means to be human. And instead entering into the water allows us to be like that rawest and most wildest form of. So
exactly.
I would introduce myself as human, I guess.
Nice. I think we all would. I think it's really important point you have there, though, to try and and it's, I guess, what the whole reason of this podcast is to try and come away from the corporate world, try and be more at one with the planet, with, like you said, the ocean, try and find our true selves.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the water has such a way of kind of creating that mirror or being its own portal to allowing us to enter into that space.
Why do you think some people need to be convinced that the ocean and the exploration of it is stunning instead of scary?
I think that the thing about fear with the ocean, and I especially feel this a lot because being a freedive instructor, this is one of the primary things that I'm working with when I have students that enter into the water. And it's that one is not mutually exclusive. So it's not that as soon as we get into this mindset of being an ocean explorer, that the fear goes away. But actually, the whole part of expanding our comfort zone with the ocean is that we actually lean into that fear. And so what does that fear with the water actually show us? And when we are able to confront that, and maybe we realize it's not as scary or there's so much beauty within that, our entire relationship with the water and even internally our own relationship with fear is completely transformed. And so that's a really beautiful relationship that the ocean and our emotions can show us.
Because we're always going to have, in a more literal sense, we're always going to have fears. We just need to learn to lean into them and not run from them, because otherwise we'll always be scared of them.
Yeah, exactly. And like when we are thinking about, this idea of being kind of our most expressive form of a human, that comes with feeling the whole array of emotions that we have. And so it's actually a really beautiful thing and a super expansive thing to be able to be in a space that can confront that. And also what a journey it is to be able to shift fear into a new emotion of awe and inspiration or exploration, and learn new things about ourselves. And something that I tell my students all the time is that it's a process of learning how to trust yourself. I find that we as humans, we really don't know how to do that truly. Sure, we have this idea of like, okay, I can trust myself, but when you are in an environment where it physically is demanding you to relax and stay calm and face that fear, even though maybe I feel panicky or maybe, you want to jump into that fight or flight, how do we actually like ground ourselves in the midst of that like disconnection between mind and body?
I think we've all had that in so many different ways. I think the key, like you said, is just to stay calm and ride, literally and pun intended, ride the wave out and sort of just go with it and not be tense.
Yeah, easier said than done for sure.
Oh, 100%.
And even myself and my own journey, when I first started freediving, like about 8 years ago is when I started my journey, but about a year after, I used to get total panic attacks in the water. Like I would be out in conditions that I was so uncomfortable with, and I'd be like crying, I'd be sobbing in my mask, like dry heaving in my snorkel, like and it feels so isolating and so overwhelming. And actually I did the opposite of what I, kind of preach now, and I quit. Like that, those experiences kept compounding, and I, in my mind, was like, this isn't for me. And I quit diving totally for a year. And it took a lot for me to get back into the space of remolding my relationship with the water before I actually found its purpose in my story in a way that wasn't so triggering.
I've had that as well. When I went to Australia, lucky enough, I know before I went, I used to hate not having control of everything, which is obviously typical of being human. I ended up on a whim / being challenged by one of my friends, just going skydiving, which I'm not going to lie is the scariest thing to think about. Because I know basically the 2 days before we were meant to go in at one city, but it got cancelled because of the weather. And I was sitting there half an hour before we were meant to go up. And then 2 days later, we get another opportunity. And I was just like, you know what? Send it. Why not? That's the energy I need to get through it. Like, you need to have a mindset like you were saying. And I think it's just overcoming that. And the fact that when I look down in the same way when you look down into the ocean, like into the deep blue, it's that fear that we're so not insignificant, but our problems are. And it gave me that sort of perspective.
Yeah. It's like the ultimate form of humbling. I think that sometimes we really think that, we're so the center of the world, and not even humans, but like as individuals, like our entire world obviously revolves. But to have moments where we're taken out of that, I think it's really special, and it just broadens our horizon for understanding ourselves and ourselves as part of this world.
Like, we are so insignificant to the actual world, it's ridiculous. And you only really see that when you take yourself out of it.
Yeah. And I think that something that you commented on like this idea of control is also something that we really struggle to let go of. And I think that part of being, in the water is it does really require a surrendering to a certain degree. Like,
it does.
I've noticed every time I go into the water, it's different. Like the conditions are different. I feel different. And so this expectation that we have to always like have a firm grasp on what we expect is something that you can't have that in you when you go out to the water, because you're just asking for humbling.
Yeah. No, you definitely are.
You either accept that the humbling is a part of the process and surrender to it, or you deny it and you're humbled, and then you just get your ego hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've had that happen to me when I was over in Australia. Like, we were, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called, but we were out in, like, not canoe boats, but, like, raft boats, going out into, like, the ocean. And I kid you not, I get in the boat, we go out, we hit the first wave, I get knocked straight back out. It was the most humbling thing I've ever been.
Yeah.
It will hit you. There's no stopping it, so just let it.
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, the expression sink or swim is very real.
What are some of the challenges you have faced when trying to plan a dive or even just an expedition or a post or anything? And how did you conquer those challenges?
I guess some challenges that I've had, and this isn't quite with human to ocean. It very much becomes challenges between people to people, and especially with my expeditions, like something that I really try to focus on is that we are second to nature. You know, like there is never a point where I ever guarantee things. And I think that is the ultimate challenge with this industry sometimes, is that people, especially with the Instagram world, you know, and it makes it seem like the ocean is so, and it is super abundant, don't get me wrong, but it's like as if the things that we're going out to see and the animals and the experiences are just automatic. Like that is guaranteed. I go into the water, I am 100% going to see a whale. And truly that is one of the biggest challenges, is because for me personally, you know, like I'm out on the water 3 days out of the week. So the chances is statistic. It's the more you're out there, the more that you're going to see. And I mean, I myself am part of the problem because I do post my highlights. But when people come on expeditions, what's really challenging is that they have just very high expectations for what the ocean will give us. And so a lot of expeditions, you know, the biggest challenge is kind of, in a way, knocking down expectations, trying to, in the gentlest way possible, change this idea that the ocean owes us an experience, and kind of like allowing people, if they really are truly here for the water and for free diving, that rather than feeling like we must get something because we paid for it, like how we can actually shift into a place of gratitude for everything that we experience. Even if for whatever reason, which has never happened to me, knock on wood, and hopefully it won't, but what if we saw absolutely nothing, not even a single fish? How do you still come back from that experience and feel grateful? So I guess that my biggest challenge sometimes really has to do with that. To really, in my opinion, to really be an ocean person is to, you know, have the ocean be the primary thing that we look after, rather than ourselves and our ego and what we feel is owed to us.
Yeah, when, like you were saying, nothing is really owed to us. And I think the sort of mini takeaway from that would definitely be that we just have the baseline of going into the ocean without expectations. And I think that's the same for everything, on land, in the ocean, everywhere. Just, yeah.
And as well, that we're not, you know, projecting this kind of toxic tourism where instead of going to SeaWorld now, we're expecting that SeaWorld is the ocean. And as soon as we go out on a boat, we are just like there to experience it all. Like, I think that the shift of the ideology that we're trying to actually like push and pursue is that we keep wild places wild, and we're not changing tourism in order to now, you know, chase or stress or like force interactions, most importantly. So even if we do get a chance to interact with animals, how do we do it in the most ethical way possible, where we're actually, as emotionally intelligent beings, able to identify in animals, okay, that is a place of stress. And even though there are whales there and there are orcas or there are rays, I can see that they're not enjoying it. And so even though I want this experience, I need to back off too.
Give them the respect they ultimately deserve, really, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And that comes with a total worldview change of not being above anything else. Like really looking at the entire world as a biotic community rather than this pyramid where humans are on top.
I think that might be one of the biggest takeaways from any of the episodes, honestly. Like you were saying, the only reason we have egos is because we view ourselves on top of everything, when we're really not.
No. And it just comes back to this idea of humbling. And that's kind of why I really love the ocean space, is because there's no faking it in the water, like you are really confronted with the real world out there. There's no cushioning you or your ego. It's just like you are fully faced with as you come in that moment.
Has there ever been anywhere, like you were saying with connection, that you felt a deep connection between humanity, land and sea? If so, how do you think we could all learn from it?
Yeah, this is a great question. I have traveled a lot of places and dove in a lot of places. And something that I've realized over the years is how much, when you're actually like in tune with the environment around you, not just on land or in the sea, but even with people, you can really start to feel values. And one of the places that I really felt that was recently when I was in French Polynesia. And I was doing an expedition with the humpback whale. And I was in Tahiti. We were staying with this local family there. And that is probably one of the places where I really, really felt this like incredibly deep connection with people and the ocean and the animals. And it was so reflected in everything, in the way that they would gather their food, and it's just immediate gratitude and always coming from this place of giving back. And it was, and that's something, that we just on is this expectation of like, oh, what is the ocean going to give us? But over there, it's the complete opposite. Instead, like everything is surrounded around how do we help this? How do we give back? And you can see that reflected not only in the way that people talk about the ocean, not only in the treatment that they have for the land and the sea, but it's even like so deeply rooted in the policy. Like when we're in the water, regulations for us interacting with animals are some of the strictest that I've seen, or some of the most, or maybe strict isn't the right word, but they are the most thorough with how they actually proceed with animal interaction, and how much that is totally respected across the board. Like there is no wiggle room. There is no, oh, well, maybe we can just have one more person. Like it is an absolute no. And so I find that as a huge green flag. Like I get a little bit sensitive. I find people are trying to bend the rules in order for their own gain. So to be in a place where a dive operator can look at me in the face and say no, I'm like total respect for that. And something that was really cool is I remember specifically one day where we were out on the water. One of the guys on the boat, he is Tahitian, and we were talking about like interactions with whales. And he looked at me and he was like, your group has some amazing interactions because you have such good energy. And he's not just talking about like, and he's like the group, the love and like the just like laughing and the good vibes. He's like, that will reflect in everything. Animals are so emotional. They will feel that and they'll see that. In the same way that you enter into a room and you meet somebody that, like lights up and they're super bubbly and you feel attracted to that. And so he had a really interesting way of, complimenting us in our group and saying like, you're going to be rewarded from that. The more that you believe it, the more that it starts to happen. And so it's like a continuous chain reaction. And yeah, I found that was definitely one of the places that I felt the most connection between people, the mind, the body, the action, the land, the sea.
The two things you touched on there for me anyway were the sense of gratitude, because I think we just need to be a bit more grateful towards not only ourselves but the planet and all the animals on it as well. And like you were saying there with the thing about the group and the energy, a phrase that I've tried to live by for the last 23 years of my life, was only take people who can keep up with you on that mountain. So only be around people who you have the same energy with.
Definitely. Like something that we say a lot is your team can only move as fast as your slowest player. And that isn't just like regarding skill, but that is a total reflection of like us and our internal, projection out into the world. And I think as well, when it comes to things like freediving and these types of things, something that we say a lot as well at our school is like, we can only meet you as deeply as you've met yourself. And when we're talking about energy, I'm not talking about like, if you're scared of the water, like you're going to drag everything down. That has nothing to do with it. Fear and ability are second to the attitude that you actually come forward with. And there's like a big difference between those. Negative energy is not fearing something and feeling that. It is a negative like expectation, a taking, a like a bitterness or like shutting people down that is super separate from the other emotions that we feel.
Fear is just natural, really. Like we wouldn't exist without fear. Saying the fight or flight thing as well, you just have to embrace it. You have to embrace the fear or get swamped by it. So speaking of fear, how have you seen people's lives change and beliefs change after being mesmerized by the ocean and its beauty and all of the insights that you've seen people gain from it?
This is a great question. I think that something that I've really seen kind of over and over again with people changing with the ocean is very much their idea of who they are in the world. I'll use this one example. I remember there was this older lady that came to freedive with me. She was about in her 60s. And when she came to do my course, she right away was like, I had a near-death experience where I was surfing. She was held down by the waves. She actually like technically drowned and then she got resuscitated. And so coming back to the ocean, coming back to the water, the whole time she was totally scared and said that from the get-go. And I was like, okay, well, we'll take it very slow. And like first and foremost, always taking care of your emotional well-being above performance. And so when she came out into the water, at the end of the course, she ended up doing like 15 meters, which personally, I never expected that she was going to like really push herself in that way. But also, she would come up from dives and just have a total breakdown. And it wasn't like a panic breakdown, but the release of emotion and the release of stress. This idea that we hold on to so much. And I think that if we look at the element of the water as a whole, it has these themes of being cleansing, of like flow, of like purifying. And then when we actually feel that, because you can, if you spend enough time and you face those feelings, it really allows you to feel the world in a way. And I think that was something that she came out of that experience. I've also personally felt this, but you leave feeling more connected, not only with yourself, knowing yourself better, part of something bigger. We're not only like seeing something bigger than us, but really now integrating that we are becoming more aquatic and into a whole world. I mean, I think that a big theme that we're talking about is like this release of ego. But even how I understand it is like we have this idea of who we are. And then there is like, I don't know if you're familiar with the book, The Power of Now, but it's basically this idea. Okay. So it's basically like the only thing that exists is the present moment. At the beginning of the book, he talks about, how he was struggling with depression and anxiety. And one day he woke up and he realized there is me, who I believed myself to be. And then there is the I that is observing that sense of self. So we ultimately have these two ideas of identity. And when we go into the water and when we're freediving, what I feel like is this idea of who we have built ourselves up to be totally like gets washed away. And when people have like negative experiences, for the most part, you know, like not saying that there aren't rough conditions or physical trauma that can happen to us, but if we hold on really tightly to who we believe we are, when it does create all this turmoil where the water is ultimately, like I said, trying to wash us and cleanse us and let us transform, then I don't think that we can really step into this place of feeling all that it has to give us. So we need to like have a fluid and loose grip on our sense of self always.
Yeah, because like the environment, we're always flipping changing. Don't put yourself under expectations. Don't have like this perceived ego of you, because there's just no point. Like otherwise you'll just, for me anyway, just stay stuck in a cycle that won't end up leading you anywhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we keep ourselves trapped in our own mind when you do that, instead of actually allowing ourselves to become more expansive. And, you know, I find these topics hard to verbalize because, like, first of all, everyone's journey is so different and everyone's experience in the water is so different. It's just that, like, I'm just speaking for me, myself, the philosophy that I go into the water with, and also the philosophy that I teach with, that I've tried to, and have tried and seen through my students and the effects that the water has had for them.
I feel like that's the best way to teach, because you can only really teach from what you know and how you understand it, because otherwise you won't really believe it. And for me, the whole point of teaching is not necessarily to make your students believe it, but to make them feel like you actually believe it.
Yeah, and not only telling them this experience, but allowing them to feel that experience for themselves. Like a big difference between, you know, this is what I think you should do versus I want you to do this and see how you feel. And I think that freediving as a sport, freediving as a sport is very funny because it requires so much feeling. Every single time there's a student that goes down and they come up from the line, immediately the first thing I'm like, how did that feel? And I mean, it's like what other sport, you know, I kind of imagine someone playing basketball, they shoot a hoop, and then you go to your coach and they're like, how did that feel? It's so contrasting to every other sport in the world because it's something that is so in conjunction with our internal world.
The only sport I'd potentially link that to, for me anyway, is like long distance running, but out on trails or something, because you will just be on your own. And being from the UK, the weather is changing. Do not know what's around the corner, but that's the fun of it. I feel like that's how you feel about the ocean as well. You don't know what's around the corner and you don't have expectations going into it. You only want to enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that with sports that put you into that space, something, you know, that's also a takeaway from the power of now is that what you're asking for is true presence. You know, like there's no stimuli like our phone. There's no like the dopamine addiction. It's just, even myself, I find when, you know, life gets crazy and I feel like I can't sit down and I'm thinking a million things at once, getting into the water is like I switch off autopilot and then I'm straight into here and now, and I'm with my senses, and and same with running. You know, you push yourself to such a degree that you kind of have to just keep going. I mean, it's true. If I were to hold my breath and think about how horrible the feeling of holding my breath is, same as running. If I were to like run and think about how awful every step is, then you're not going to last very long. So it's forced to be present in that time and space.
Believe me, I've been there with running. There's been times I haven't wanted to do a session. I'm like, you know what, get outside, it might be raining, just go with it. And 9 times out of 10, they're sometimes the best sessions.
Yes.
Aside from the many reasons you touched on throughout today's episode, like perspective, freedom, and just being the true human self, why is the ocean your happy place? And has this ever changed?
It has definitely changed. I think when I, had quit for a while, my reasons for why I would go out into the water was very different. I think back then I was trying to prove something to myself, as opposed to now, it is the space where I fully disconnect. And I think that that's what makes it my happy place. Is there's no signal underwater. There's no email underwater. There's no responsibility. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but it's true. It's the place of total disconnection from this. I kind of imagine it like I live in 2 different worlds. I live on the surface world, and then there's the underwater world. And so it becomes that place not of escape. I wouldn't use escapism as the word, but it feels like a returning back to myself. Rather than on the surface, I'm living life, in metrics of seconds and minutes and hours and days. When I go underwater, even the idea of time is fully transformed into me feeling good under there. Like even the idea of time is now limited to the amount of time between a single breath. The entire way that I perceive my experience is totally transformed. And I guess it's my happy place because it is the one time in my life where I really feel I am experiencing presentness in its highest form.
The word distraction and present can't really exist in the same atmosphere, if that makes sense. You need to find your own. It might not be the ocean, but hopefully it is, because it's incredible when you actually go under. But for anyone listening, you just need to find your own place where you feel, I guess you can just breathe, really. Even
Yeah, definitely. And I think that this isn't an experience that is exclusive to just being in the water or being underwater. I mean, I was actually raised in Ontario, Canada, which is totally landlocked from the ocean. And I remember feeling these moments when I was a kid climbing a tree or, just laying on my back, watching the clouds. And it's the same type of thing of just, I don't know, like when you're a kid, you're just so present all the time. And part of why it's a happy place for me too is because I feel like I'm living my second childhood. And like it is that space of joy. So then I guess a big thing, it doesn't have to be this massive experience for how we can tap into that feeling of childhood and joy. It's just allowing ourselves the space, opening ourselves up to the idea that is still possible for us. That's not lost in nostalgia. It's something that we are perfectly capable of recreating now.
Exactly. Like one thing I've tried to, especially since 2020 and everything that happened there, I've just tried to be not more like a kid, but still enjoy being a kid, because at the end of the day, we're all somebody's kids, if that makes sense, in the most roundabout way.
Definitely. Absolutely. Totally. And we need to maintain that kindred spirit. That essence of spirit is what keeps us light. And I think that, there is so much going on in the world where it's really easy to spiral into this darkness. And that doesn't mean that there's no place for depth and darkness and life that just happens sometimes. But how do we actually, also make space for the things that lighten us up and lift our hearts, remind us why we want to continue and be here day to day.
What equipment do people need to explore the blue world, or is it simply just their mindset going into it?
Yeah, there's definitely some minimal equipment to get the most out of it and to make you feel more comfortable, because ultimately, comfort is a big piece of it. It's not like I want to put myself in the water and then stress myself out because I'm not feeling prepared. So what I would recommend for people that are just wanting to get into the world is a good mask. So something that allows you to see the water world, not just like goggles, but one that fully goes over your nose as well, so that you're also not snorting in any salt water by accident. A good snorkel, so something that is going to allow you to breathe, so that when you are exploring, you're looking at things, you have that place of rest. Like a good pair of fins, really, to just feel aquatic, to move around more efficiently, allow you to explore, and especially if things are, getting a little bit rougher than you expect, that you're able to get yourself out of trouble. And definitely a buddy. So I would hate for people to, finish this podcast and be like, all right, I'm going out in the open ocean, and then they don't have somebody that they go with. So the most important rule in all diving sports is that you're always going with a partner. So in case anything happens, you are safe.
Are you up for a game of sweet truth?
Sure.
You need to tell me 3 things, 1 truth and 2 falsehoods about an outdoor experience. Either I get the sweet victory of picking the truth, or you get the sweet victory of persuading me to pick a falsehood.
Okay, I'm ready. So my 3, 1, I have been bitten by a shark on my fin, but never on my body. 2, in my first year of freediving, it's the only time that I've ever blacked out. And 3, I have been shat on by a whale before.
Oh.
So 1, I've been bitten by a shark on my fins, but not on my body. 2, I have only blacked out in my first year of freediving. And 3, shat on by a whale.
Where were you when you blacked out? And how?
So
if you remember, how did it happen?
My first year of freediving, I was in Thailand and Hawaii.
Did you, I take it you didn't, but did you see the shark coming?
No.
What type of shark was it?
It was a tiger. They're my favorite sharks.
It's not that one. I don't think that's the truth.
Okay, yes. I've never been close to getting bitten by a shark, so we can cross that one off the list. You got me on that one.
How did you get shot on by a whale?
How does one get shot on by a whale? So it was a pretty close encounter. It was coming forwards, and I seriously underestimated how big it was. So I couldn't really go left and I couldn't go right. So I took a dive under.
Yeah.
Passing through, I got swallowed by a brown cloud.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in David Attenborough documentaries, so
no.
I'm gonna go with that as the truth. I might as well.
Yeah, that is true. So that was my one of my first experiences with the world, actually, is it shat on me. So that felt pretty lucky, to be honest.
Okay, nice. I got that one right. Perfect. If there is one piece of advice for someone reluctant to try freediving for the first time, what would it be and why?
If I was to give anybody advice, it is to go into the water with a sense of curiosity and play. So if you really want to get the most out of the experience, love it first. Like, it is its own identity, and view it as that, and create a relationship with it in a way that is independent of everything else that you've ever experienced in your life. If you're going to go into it, curiosity with, what am I going to feel? What am I going to see? What is this experience like? And play, like, really make it enjoyable, because if you have to love something in order to care for it. So just nurturing that sense of play, and kind of like how we were talking about before, of like, allow it to be that space where you can live your second childhood and have that kindred spirit. Scream in your snorkel, like, have fun, experiment, do your little turns, get into dolphin mode, pretend that you're a whale, whatever. And then taking this ideology from French Polynesia, the better the energy that you have, the more play, the more the ocean will be curious about you too. So only good things can come from approaching with, energy that is high and light, and it will reflect in yourself and in the world around you.
Nature does give back, and the whole thing of being curious. Because at the end of the day, we are all just animals, no matter what type of species. If you're curious about one type of animal, they'll more likely be curious about you, so they'll come up and say hi, and you'll get the better experiences, or that dream experience, as it were. Was there ever a moment that has stuck with you where you would I'm so glad the ocean chose me, just so people listening feel as if they were in the ocean with you in that moment?
There has definitely been moments in the water where I just felt the whole world around me just was, building up to that moment. And this one specific that I can think of is during my tiger shark expedition in the Maldives. And we were doing a blue water dive.
Yeah.
And I had done it was a week's worth of diving with the tigers day in, day out. So you get really comfortable with them. You start to learn your behaviors, who we operate with. They're an incredible safety team. And we actually learn a lot about shark education, not only about ecology, but also us in the water with them and how to learn how to approach them, which I think is super valuable information. It was one dive where I went down and I had timed it so well where the shark was coming towards me. And these are huge. They're not just
huge.
They're 3-4 meters, and they're beefy. And it was coming straight for me. And I think it was the first time that I really learned how to step into an energy that matched that. So it was I had to learn how to now give off this presence of predator as well. And it was the first time where most of the time, you kind of follow it and you're behind it. But this was the first time I was really face to face coming at me, and it was coming and I didn't move away. I just held my ground. And they do this type of behavior where they will start parallel swimming. So instead of crossing paths, sharks will come towards each other and then now go parallel and swim side by side. And it was coming towards me. I didn't move. And at the last second, we both in sync kind of turned and started swimming together. And knowing that behavior and then having experienced it, and then now being eye to eye, because eye contact is so important for establishing your presence, and being fully eye to eye, observing it and it observing me. I think that this was something that was one of it was a spiritual experience, to say the least. It was kind of a graduation of trusting myself, and the ultimate test of I know who I am in this setting in the water, and holding your ground for it with one of the kings of the ocean. And so that was something that I'm a total shark person now. I am just obsessed.
I think it is just that level of respect that people need to have with the ocean and nature itself, because you don't know how it's going to show up, but it will show up. And if you give it the respect it deserves, it will give you that straight back. And for you to have that moment with that shark, dang. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was the first time I really felt mutual respect.
Where is your next adventure?
So I'm actually going back to the Maldives. So that's my next adventure. I'm going to do this year of that same experience. So that was last year in March. And this year we're going February. So mid-February, doing 2 weeks worth of expeditions. And going back there. So I'm so excited. It's probably my favorite one that I do every year. So it's very special to me.
Are there any spare plane tickets going? and just asking for a friend.
I have 2 spots left on the freediving expedition. So I actually teach the freediver course as part of the expedition. So it's totally open to beginners, ambitious beginners, because if you have no ocean experience, you want to learn to freedive. And then now we're going in the water with sharks. It's kind of like
sharks?
0 to
Good luck.
100. It's 0 to 100, but like how I was saying, the team over there in Fumala, which is the island that we go to, they're incredible. They're so safe. They like are so thorough in everything that they do, and so it's such an incredible experience. So
one last task: please write down or message me a nature phrase that I must get into my next podcast without my guest knowing. And did you spot the one I put in today?
Oh, no, I didn't actually.
Yeah. It was only take people who can keep on the mountain up with you. It was right at the start.
Yeah, I did think that was, I was like, oh, a lot of wisdom in that phrase.
Where can people find out about you and all the fantastic work you do with the ocean?
So they can follow me on Instagram. My personal account is Emgonewild. And my actual business that I run here is Salty Souls Freediving. So there's my website, saltysoulsfreediving.com, or also my Instagram page, which is at Salty Souls Freediving. And this is where we're doing like expeditions and also have our freediving school where we teach people how to connect with water, how to freedive, while also doing like animal, wildlife, kind of hybrid trips, which incorporates training in combination with experiencing the world. So salty souls, pretty much, people who want to salten up their lives.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on the episode today, Em. It's been really interesting to learn about perspectives, to learn about the ocean, and to learn about just how important it is to actually be present. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here and for your insight and your questions. It's been really nice to look back on everything and kind of share it as like a single, conversation.
That's why I do what I do. Yeah, guys, please take your time, go and check out all of her socials and all of the amazing work that she does. Thank you, guys. If you enjoyed that episode, then we have plenty more to offer you. You interested? From a conversation with Paralympic champion Dimitri Coutier about the power of being active, to incredible wildlife conversations and encounters with Dr. Niall McCann. Find out more by typing in the Maximise Nature Podcast anywhere, and follow on Instagram at Maximise_Nature, that's at Maximise_Nature, for a chance not only to catch up on more episodes, but also maximise your midweek. Bye guys!